Welcome to worship with the Unitarian Universalist community of Charlotte. I'm Jay Leach, one of this community's ministers, and my pronouns are he, him, his. Some of you will recall my friend and colleague Kathleen McTeague, who served for a time as a contract minister with us here. Kaki, as we call her, is such a gifted writer. In words included in the back of our hymnal, she offers a call to worship that begins, "We come together this morning to remind one another." We come together this morning to remind one another. And so we do, especially today, for this is about memory and its place in our lives personally and collectively. Today, I'm grateful for those of you who remember, who have a history in our community, who can recall in ways that now shape anticipation. Welcome, beloved members. Welcome also to our guests. We're honored that you join us for this tender service. You can contact our membership coordinator, Kelly Green, if you'd like to learn a bit more about us. This house, Kathleen McTeague continues, this house of laughter and silence, memory and hope is hallowed by our presence together. On a day when I welcome you back into our home, but more importantly, back to this virtual home that we share together, may we hear, if only in our memories for now, the laughter and the silence, the hallowing of this time together.
We're John and Mary Lee, and we've been members of the UUCC community for 4 years.
Today, we're reading from People of Memory, Kimberly Ann Tomczak Carlson. We are a people of memory. As inheritors of our ancestors' legacy, we hold their stories tenderly, gleaning wisdom from diverse journeys, united in hope for the future. Guide us to trust and love as we kindle this flame together.
Let us hope that we will all be together soon.
Lost in Plain Sight by Peter Schneider. Somewhere recently, I lost my short-term memory. It was there, and then it moved like a flash of a red fox along a fence line. My short-term memory has no address but here, no time but now. It is a straight man waiting to speak, to fill in empty space with name, date, trivia, punchline, and then it fails to show. It is lost, hiding somewhere out back, a dried ragweed stalk on the Dakota prairie, holding the shadow of its life against a January wind. How am I to go on? I wake up hundreds of times a day. Who am I waiting for? What am I looking for? Why do I have this empty cup on the porch or in the yard? I greet my neighbor who smiles. I turn a slow, lazy Susan in my mind, looking for some clue, anything, to break the spell of being lost in plain sight.
Buddhist writer Pema Chodron counsels, welcome this present moment as if you had invited it, because she says it is all we will ever have. So too, Thich Nhat Hanh, another acclaimed Buddhist guide who teaches, there is only one moment for you to be alive, and that is this present moment. The deep truth of their wisdom is well worth pondering, for it offers a spiritual path informed and enlivened by mindful attentiveness to the here and now. And yet, like most deep spiritual truths, their claims have an opposing and even paradoxical side. This notion that the present moment is all we have may be the truth, but it is hardly the whole truth. Poet Miller Williams offers an important counterbalance in his admission, now is a place where was and will be meet. But oh, the will be and the was are sweet. If it is true that we can only live in this present moment, then it is just as true that each present moment of our lives is informed by and so very often enriched by both expectation, the will be, and, to our topic for today, memory, the was. In the first pages of his autobiography, My Last Sigh, celebrated Spanish-Mexican surrealist Luis Buñuel points up the power of the was. Memory, he writes, is what makes our lives. Life without memory is no life at all. Our memory, he continues, is our coherence, our reason, our feeling, even our action. Without it, we are nothing. And if already again we are confronted with another statement, perhaps too absolute, there's no disputing the deep truth that is in it as well. Who would we be in this present moment were we unable to remember? How would we welcome the present moment, and how alive would we be in it without our memories? Memories both profound and practical, recollections of cherished moments, relationships, experiences, recreated and embraced all over again. Access to basic information, names and addresses, numbers and passwords, instructions, directions, ways of organizing important facts. Beyond both the beautiful and the banal, it is memory that bridges life and death. memory that brings our beloveds back again, memory that allows us to sustain our deep connections to those we have loved and lost, and yet, because of memory, have never fully lost. To be able to say, I remember, is to lay claim on moments beyond the present. And while there's no denying that all of us have that to which we might wish to forget, who of us would do so at the expense of what and of who we long to remember? In the land of memory, the barriers of time are broken. Experience arrives unbounded, and we are remembered to so much that makes us who we are in this present moment. And so, too, of course, to be able to say, we remember, is to lay such an important claim. We remember. Memory is not just some personal storehouse, some solipsistic domain set off from all others. It is one of relationships' most profound meeting places, whether with a lover, a family member, or a long-lost friend. Those moments of, do you remember when, are surely among life's sweetest gifts. And isn't memory one of the primary signifiers of communal connection, of community? To be those who share together in certain memories, that time when, that one who, those who share a past, who have a history, whose stories overlap and are re-enlivened when we can name them together.
This is a portion of Marilyn Nelson's second Alzheimer's sonnet. How many things can I forget today? How many times stop still and ask myself, what was I going to do? What a wealth of experiences tossed into the wind. What masterpieces lost, even to me. Without them, am I still one of a kind? A unique loop of interpreted memory? How much can one forget? An actor's name? The novel I finished reading last night. Where the damn car keys are. And still remain a bubble of identity riding a wave of light.
We hardly noticed when it started, It was so subtle, so ordinary. After all, it was rarely more than a pause, followed by a self deprecating chuckle. It's called aphasia, the loss of the ability to understand or to express speech. And for my mom in those early days, it was at worst awkward, leaving her to feel a little silly when she suddenly lost her verbal grip on newspaper or tomato or rain. Oh, she'd laugh. You know what I mean. And of course, we often did. Until, of course, we didn't. The gaps grew more common, more confusing to us and to her. Like the poets you heard in today's service, that bewildering kind of confusion when the losses begin piling up. I remember, there are those words again. I remember so vividly the conversation. My dad and I were walking along the Allegheny River in Pittsburgh, off together on one of our annual baseball boondoggles, a few rare days face to face. With caution, I broached the topic, asked his assessment of my mom's condition, and invited his admission that it was clearly worsening. He lashed out, pushed back, denied, a man who so rarely loses control of his emotions. His mounting ire shocked and stung me, and we let it drop in a very uncomfortable silence. The next day, resting up in our hotel room for a third game in 3 days, he returned to the topic, this time with an apology. I'm sorry, I overreacted. I know you were trying to express concern. I shouldn't have responded like I did. I could hardly hear the words he was saying over the words he was not. My heart is breaking. I'm losing the love of my life, a day, a word, a phrase at a time. He knew on that day what the filmmaker Buñuel had claimed. Memory is what makes our lives. And the more of hers she lost, the more of her he lost as well. To the end, he was devoted, determined to plumb any flicker, to hold on to any glimmer, to imagine with her and for her that she still remembered something, anything of that handsome young kid she'd met in junior high school. And when he called on an early Monday morning last July and said, with his voice cracking, "Jay, we lost her," it was but a statement of finality, so long in the making. We learned what so many of you know, have experienced, have seen and heard for yourselves. Loss of memory is one of life's cruelest turns. In part, today's service is simply to say to you, to any of you who have gone through this, to any of you who are going through this, to any of you who are experiencing it for yourself, we know you aren't alone. And God, does it hurt. Here's one of so many things I learned along that way. My mom didn't just lose her memory, she lost our memory. You see, so often she was the one who remembered for us, remembered birthdays and anniversaries, special occasions, and cherished reflections. Well, she'd say, you know what we were doing a year ago today? And often we didn't. So she would remember for us. Now, trying to sort out one thing or another. How much baking soda do you put in the waffles? Or when we first stayed in that big house at Ocean Drive, I know who would know, who for so long always seemed to recall. It's such a profound memory. That memory is so profoundly relational. We don't just remember one another. We remember for one another. And so when one of us loses our memory, all of us are diminished, dismembered in certain ways. It felt, writes John Green in his exquisite book, The Fault in Our Stars. It felt like losing your co-rememberer meant losing the memory itself, as if the things we'd done were less real and important than they'd been hours before.
Hi, my name is Patricia Rabel. Looking at the world differently from a different perspective is something I've always attempted to do as a writer and an artist. Obviously, memory in all its forms has played an important part, especially during the time I was caregiver for my mother. Like many, I initially dismissed the slight changes in my mother's behavior, but because of a serious episode with vertigo and her complaints about strange noises from the apartments nearby, I pushed her to live in senior housing where there were people to help. With my husband, I had questioned my mother's restlessness and agitation before, but now I was beginning to suspect it was more than aging. She was angry about the move, but initially appeared to adjust, playing her favorite card game, bridge. Unfortunately, within 4 months, my mother began to have auditory hallucinations, even though she was deaf in one ear. Her phone calls came 3 and 4 times a night, describing people in the ceiling with guns who were trying to kill her. Another night, the woman who lived in the apartment next door and her son were trying to burn the building down because my mom knew they were running a brothel. Yet nothing would persuade her to see a doctor. Finally, the facility required her to visit the emergency department where my youngest daughter worked. Had my daughter not been there, she would have been released. Instead, she was sent to another hospital specializing in mental health care and evaluation for seniors. It was there that our journey took a sharp turn. We had a name, dementia with Lewy bodies, and we had medication that appeared to work. This was 2010, and our journey would last for another 8 years with a few highs and many lows. We're all increasingly familiar with Alzheimer's symptoms, specifically episodic loss, but Mom's disease was different. She had a lack of judgment, paranoia, and combativeness, which would flare without warning. Yet her cognitive memory remained surprisingly intact until a year before her death. What my mother, who admittedly had never been a seriously empathetic person, lost first was her emotional memory, this personal way of connecting to those you love and care about. Emotional memory, if you Google it, as I did, is the memory of experiences that should awaken an emotional response. Yet my attempts to talk about my childhood with my brother received only flat responses, as if we were someone she barely knew. After a fall in which she broke her arm and fractured a bone in her pelvis, I noticed this reaction even more. She refused to tell her sister-in-law or brother about the accident. When her brother died during her rehabilitation, her response was only, "I guess we'd better get a card." It was also during this period that my brother was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. Again, her response was minimal. And when he died a year later, she never cried or talked about him. It was as if whatever feeling she had was locked away forever. An emergency order granted me guardianship against her wishes, so she would no longer talk to me. The strings and ties that connected her to me, the last remaining family, were severed. She was no longer there. So what have I learned from this experience? Perhaps it's simple: to share yourself now and to make as many memories as possible. My husband and I are trying to do this with our grandsons, sharing our love of the outdoors by hiking and camping. We've also begun to write a book of future letters for them to open later. It's our way of creating and preserving some of our shared memories.
I'll be seeing Good morning. I am Michael Amy Sierra. So it's February 2019. My husband just moved out. I started a year-long redo of massage school to license in North Carolina, and I commenced spending almost every day for the next year with a wonderful woman named Cora. Cornelia Uting was 87 years old, the youngest of 7 children, who moved to America from Holland as a young bride. Wife, mother, grandmother, great-grandmother. She was hardworking and sweet and funny, and when I came into her life, she was living with Alzheimer's. She also had macular degeneration and smoked like a chimney. Holding space at a profound moment in someone's life wasn't new for me. At the bedside of dear friends dying with HIV/AIDS dementia, lost in their memories, as a birth doula, holding that space for women, sharing back their memories for them. And my great gift to Cora, and particularly her family, was I didn't know her before. And that sentence is everything. There was no grief for me, no bittersweet memories. What was left was her essence, her core of kindness. I wasn't asking her to remember anything. While I certainly now consider Cora a dear friend, I can't say she felt the same about me. She certainly considered me friendly. I do not think she ever knew my name. Sometimes she called me girl, but we shared the loveliest of times together. Countless mornings sitting on the deck, listening to bird song, admiring the trees and their flourishing finery, or Cora playing along in her mind to Fur Elise, or us singing along to Ella and Doris Day, or me reading her children's books and eating chocolates. I'm a longtime Zen Buddhist practitioner, and Cora became my practice that year. Each moment, each breath, pure and beautiful, beginner's mind, present. When I offered her daily oatmeal in the morning or a grilled cheese sandwich in the afternoon, she'd often say, "Oh, I've never had this before. Thank you. It's delicious." And this was my practice, to meet Cora each day, present in each moment. To not spend a year reflecting back on the memory of my failed marriage, but to be with Cora, to meet her in her misty watercolored memories, talking of riding her bicycle that morning or making cookies with her mother in Holland. Each day she said to me, "Nice to meet you," as if for the first time. Every day. To be here in the present moment, not the ungraspable nature of past and future, right where we are in each moment. It seems every few years, particularly pre-cloud, I've had a computer crash and I lose files and files of photos and I'm heartbroken. Now I know this is the part that can be particularly painful for family when our person is a partner or a parent. Where are the files? Who am I if they don't know me? But this is what I know, y'all. They know they love you. One of my fondest memories is spending Easter with Cora's family. My daughter Tallulah was lucky enough to be seated next to Cora for a rousing game of telephone. And y'all can imagine the comedy that ensued. Everyone present, not grieving. A room filled with laughter and love and joy. Blessed be.
Caring concern continues to connect us even as we remain, for now, a virtual community. without the chance encounters, the meetings over cups of coffee, the crossing on the stairway, I invite you today or this week to reach out to someone you've missed. And I invite you to find some way to express special concern for Vivian Brenner and Dick Kistler as Vivian undergoes a medical procedure this week. For Felicia and Tom Lee as Felicia recovers from a difficult fall. And for the family and friends of our member Don Crawford, who mourn Don's recent death. Express your personal celebration to Jenny Sullivan, who welcomes Can It Be a Great-Grandchild to the world. With much of our world, we're troubled today. Violence again fills the air and the streets of Israel and Palestine, where the human community is reminded all over again of the profound fragility of all places where some are treated as less than, less worthy, with less dignity. It's a condition with which we in this country are not unfamiliar. Questioning still if Black and brown, if Asian, if poor, if trans lives really matter. For Israel, for our own nation, for this community, we pray not for peace, but for justice. Not simply for the cessation of struggle, but rather for the realization of true equity.
Good morning. My name is Cindy Martinek, and I am co-chair of your stewardship team. In looking for a silver lining from the past year of this pandemic, I am surprised at how we were able, as a society and a community, to adapt and change. It certainly has not been easy or ideal, but we did it. Who would have thought that the world could switch so many people to working remotely or to having school remotely? Our amazing staff here at the UUCC was able to quickly transition us to virtual Sunday services, classes, and even get-togethers. Being able to participate in our community activities has been so important to me over the past year, and it was only possible because of the generosity of our members. I have been able to continue with our UUCC book group, Discover group, lots of classes, and even fireside get-togethers at 234, our new name for the church. I'm excited to see where we will go as we come out of the pandemic and begin having services in person again. Our pledge campaign this year is encouraging members to support our community by pledging 5% of household income. If May is your pledge month, please consider what it has taken to keep us all together this year, and please help us move into the future. Thank you.
Working out of my office at 234 again, I made my way outside recently on one of those utterly perfect afternoons we have had. Not intending to do so, I found myself wandering toward our community's memorial garden. In that simple circle of marble markers, the names of those we remember. And now, drifting over the course of 18 years here, I said yet another prayer of thanks for these saints who from their labors rest. Sue Riley, Charlotte Watkins, Tim Hartness, Ed Milner, Hank Grancy, John Singer, Eleanor and Joe Smith, Dave Berkey, Judy Gonine, Sidney Freeman, all of whom and so many others we have memorialized together in our community. This is, in part, our purpose, why religious communities exist. For all we get wrong, mess up, do badly, leave undone, we serve an important purpose. We are the community of memory. We exist in part to remember, to be a space more spiritual than physical, where we inscribe reminders, carve memories, commit to hold on to bring to mind, to continue to celebrate. Memory matters. Our memories matter. The memories we make and share, create and cultivate and preserve matter. Here, even in this virtual here, we are the rememberers. And as long as there are those who sustain this community, our memories will never be completely lost. May it be so. Join me for a time of meditation. In the love that will not let us go, that binds each to all in the mystic bonds of life, may no one be lost fully to us. May memory sustain connection, weaving us ever more tightly together in the truest web of life's longing for itself. And when we ourselves are no longer able to remember for ourselves, may we be remembered to the grandeur of the cosmos itself. May it be so. Go with courage, my friends, of course. Go with courage, but be gentle. Be gentle with yourselves as well.